What if everything you're chasing is actually trying to find you, but you're standing in the way? Every man knows the pressure to force things, to control outcomes, to prove your worth through effort, achievement, and control. But the more you grip, the more life slips. That's not power. That's exhaustion. Here's the truth most men never hear. Life doesn't respond to force. It responds to alignment. And that shift begins the moment you let go. Letting go is not giving up. It's choosing clarity over chaos. It's surrendering, not to defeat, but to rhythm, to flow, to what's already moving toward you. Stoic philosophy teaches one timeless idea: control what you can, let go of what you can't. Trust the rest. When you stop chasing, peace finds you. When you stop forcing, momentum returns. When you detach from outcomes, you reclaim inner strength, mental clarity, and quiet power. You're not alone in this. We've all felt stuck in that cycle. Tense, driven, distracted, wondering why life won't move. But once you stop trying to outrun the current, you realize you were never meant to chase. You were meant to trust. In this video, you'll learn how to release control without losing power, using Stoic surrender as your edge. If this message hit something real in you, hit like. Subscribe for more grounded, powerful truths like this. Let's build in silence. Let's win from stillness. Let go and watch life respond. 1. Letting go is not surrender. It's the beginning of inner freedom. You don't always break down with noise. Sometimes a man simply stops. No warning, no drama, just silence. One breath, one pause, and something inside unclenches. Not because he failed, not because he gave up, but because he's done pretending that holding everything together is a strength. He's done forcing his way forward like life is some wall he has to break through. And in that quiet stop, something shifts. Letting go doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're quitting. It means you're finally awake enough to see that not everything needs to be carried, that not every outcome must be controlled, that your worth isn't tied to how hard you push. And yet, this truth is buried under years of noise. Messages telling men to grip tighter, to hustle harder, to dominate every inch of their lives. But real strength isn't in domination. It's in discernment, in knowing when to act and when to step back. A man can spend years chasing things that never needed chasing. The job, the woman, the respect. And the more he tightens his grip, the more he feels them slip. He starts believing that more effort equals more progress. But life doesn't bend to pressure. It moves when you do. When you soften, when you stop forcing, when you trust. That's not passivity, that's presence. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus taught that a wise man focuses only on what he can control and lets go of everything else. Not with bitterness, but with grace. Because control is not power when it's rooted in fear. But letting go, when done from strength, becomes your power. It clears space, it sharpens your mind, it calms your chest, it frees your energy from grasping and allows it to flow again with purpose. Picture this. You're at the airport, flight delayed for hours. Everyone's tense, pacing, complaining, and checking their phones every 2 seconds. You feel that surge, need to call someone, to fix something, to control what's clearly outside your reach. But then you stop. You take a breath, and you sit still. You let go of the outcome you can't influence. And suddenly, you're not stuck, you're free. Same airport, same delay, but you've changed position, you've stopped reacting. That is the moment life responds, not to the noise, but to your quiet shift in posture. Most men never get there, because they mistake letting go for giving up. But it's not about walking away, it's about walking correctly. About letting go of outcomes, not effort. You still show up, you still work, but your peace is no longer tied to the result. That detachment, strong, grounded, clear, is the Stoic way. Try this today. Don't drop everything. Don't disappear. Just pick one thing you've been gripping too tightly, one thing you've tried to control out of fear, and exhale. Give it space. Let it be what it is. Let yourself be who you are without wrestling every moment. Not because it's easy, but because it's time. That's how a man reclaims his freedom. Not with noise, with breath, with presence, with strength that doesn't need to shout. Let go, and everything that's truly yours will finally know how to find you. 2. Life responds the moment you stop forcing it. You try, you push, you plan every detail. You speak louder, move faster, work longer, thinking that life owes you a breakthrough if you just want it bad enough. But the truth? The more force you use, the less movement you get. Not because life is broken, but because you're in the way. We live in a world where men are told to conquer everything: time, people, outcomes, emotions. Control it all or be controlled, they say. But here's the twist. The moment you stop forcing, the current shifts. Life begins to respond, not to your aggression, but to your withdrawal from the noise. When you stop grabbing, your hands become open. And only open hands can receive. Most men never notice how much energy they waste trying to control what's not theirs to command. They mistake urgency for clarity, movement for progress. But forcing is fear wearing a confident face. It's the fear of being left behind. The fear of not being enough unless everything happens now. That kind of mindset drains you. It chokes out your awareness, and it blinds you to the subtle signals that were always there, waiting for you to slow down. Stoicism rejects that panic-driven life. Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you." That's not passive. That's wise. That's power in restraint. Because when you accept, you can observe. When you observe, you understand. And when you understand, life moves again. Not because you made it, but because you stopped interrupting it. Picture this. You're texting someone you care about. They don't reply. You feel the urge rise. Send another message. Check your tone. Doubt your words. But what if instead you did nothing? What if you trusted the space? That pause might give you more answers than the second message ever could. Because it's not always your words that push things forward. Sometimes it's your silence. This isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing the right thing at the right time with the right energy. You don't need to abandon effort. You need to release the tension underneath it. The need to control how others respond. The need to predict every outcome. The need to feel in charge of things you never truly owned. A river doesn't rush because it's desperate. It flows because it trusts its path. That's the power of surrender. And no, surrender is not weak. It's a decision to lead with presence, not panic. To stop chasing what's already aligned. To pause long enough so that life can catch up to your stillness. Try this today. In one area where you've been pushing too hard, step back. Not forever. Just long enough to feel your grip. Just long enough to breathe without fixing. Don't speak, don't chase, don't overthink. Let it breathe. If it's meant for you, it will respond. If it doesn't, it never was. But now you'll know, not because you forced it, but because you made space to see clearly. Life isn't ignoring you. It's waiting for you to calm down. And when you do, you'll realize something powerful. The moment you stopped chasing was the exact moment it started moving. Not away from you, but toward you. 3. Peace comes when you release control over outcomes. Most men think peace is the reward for finally fixing everything, for solving the problem, closing the deal, getting the girl. But the truth is far more uncomfortable and more powerful. Peace doesn't come when things fall into place. It comes when you stop needing them to. You've probably lived in fight mode longer than you realize. You wake up already tense. The day feels like a competition. Time, people, even your own thoughts. Everything becomes something you need to win against. You try to control the result of every meeting, every message, every moment. And even when it seems to work, you're still not calm. Because underneath it all, you're terrified that the moment you loosen your grip, it will all fall apart. But that tightness you carry? It's not a strength. It's fear with armor. Fear of being invisible. Fear of failure. Fear that if you don't force life to happen, nothing will. And so you live clenched, distracted, wired, always working from reaction, not presence. Always asking what's next instead of noticing what's now. The Stoics saw through this illusion. Epictetus taught that freedom lives in focusing only on what you can control. Not the outcome. Never the outcome, but your effort, your intention, your response. That is where peace grows, not in the final result, but in how you move toward it. Peace doesn't come from achieving more. It comes from needing less to be okay. Imagine this. You send a job application. You've done your best. You tailored the resume, wrote the letter, hit send. Now your mind kicks in. You want to check if they read it. You want to follow up too soon. You imagine rejection before it even happens. That spiral isn't about ambition. It's about attachment. You're trying to control the result instead of trusting the process. And that's why peace escapes you. Letting go of the outcome doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending. You stop tying your self-worth to what happens next. You stop believing that control is the same as security. It isn't. Control is fragile. Peace is not. Control cracks the moment things don't go your way. Peace stays, even when they don't. There's a reason why men who move with calm presence command more respect. Why does the one who doesn't flinch when plans change become the one others trust? He doesn't need certainty. He doesn't chase reassurance. His stability doesn't come from guarantees. It comes from himself, from a posture of surrender that's rooted in confidence, not resignation. Try this. Today, in one small area where you usually chase control, pause. When a text doesn't come, wait. When a meeting shifts, breathe. When someone doubts you, don't rush to explain. Instead, return to your center. Remind yourself, I control my actions, not the outcomes, and that's enough. That moment of quiet reclaims something louder than any victory: your freedom. Real peace isn't when everything is fixed. It's when you stop needing to fix it. When you realize the outcome was never yours to hold, but your presence always was. Let that be your edge. Not the force to shape the future, but the clarity to stay grounded, no matter how it unfolds. Peace doesn't follow control. It follows the release. 4. Over-control is rooted in fear, not in strength. You don't micromanage because you're strong. You do it because you're scared. That's the part most men won't admit, because control feels like power. It looks sharp, it feels productive. But deep down, it's driven by something quieter. Fear of the unknown, fear of loss, fear of not being enough unless everything goes exactly to plan. You think you're protecting something, but all you're doing is tightening your own cage. Control is a mask we wear when we're afraid to feel exposed. Every time you overanalyze a conversation, chase the meaning behind a delay, or try to steer outcomes that were never yours, you're not leading. You're reacting. Your energy isn't grounded. It's tense, nervous, stretched. And when life doesn't move on your schedule, that tension grows. You start believing something's broken. But it's not. Life isn't malfunctioning. It's just not dancing to your rhythm. And that's not a flaw. That's reality. The man who thinks control equals mastery often burns out before he ever finds peace. Because control requires constant input, constant hypervigilance. It turns your mind into a battlefield and your day into a checklist of anxieties. And what's worse, it never ends. Because even when things go your way, you'll doubt it. You'll question whether you did enough, and when they don't, you'll blame yourself like you should have stopped the rain or bent time. That's where Stoic strength stands apart. The Stoic doesn't reach for control to feel secure. He reaches inward. He doesn't see life as something to manipulate, but something to align with. He learns to respond, not react. He recognizes that most of what happens is outside his command, and that true mastery comes from commanding his own state. He learns that the tighter he grips, the more off balance he becomes. Picture this: you're running late, traffic hits, your phone starts buzzing, a delay you didn't plan for. In that moment, most men clench, they curse, they stress, they imagine what they're missing, how they're failing. But what if instead, you accepted it, breathed, realized you're not late, you're just not in control? And that's okay. The world doesn't end because your plans didn't unfold perfectly. But the panic you carry? That's optional. You weren't designed to fix every variable. You were designed to face what's real with clarity. And clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from detaching from the illusion that you must hold it all together. The strongest man in the room isn't the loudest or the busiest. He's the one who can sit still while others unravel, who can let go without losing himself, who can choose calm even when chaos presses in. Today, you'll be tempted to control something out of fear. Maybe it's someone's opinion. Maybe it's a deadline. Maybe it's your own emotions. When it happens, notice it. Don't shame it. Just pause. Then say to yourself, this moment isn't mine to fix. It's mine to meet. That shift won't be loud, but it'll be everything. You'll stop burning energy where it's wasted, and you'll start owning your space, not with tension, but with presence. Control isn't strength when it comes from fear. Strength is choosing to let life move while you stay still, strong, centered, and unmoved by what was never yours. 5. Life is a rhythm. The more you force, the more you fall out of step. You don't fight music. You move with it. That's how rhythm works. But when you're tense, when your mind races to the next moment, when your breath shortens, when you're rushing time, you stop hearing the beat, and life, like music, becomes noise. You no longer dance with it. You push against it, and the harder you push, the more offbeat you become. Most men don't realize they've lost their rhythm until the silence feels foreign. They've spent so long trying to race ahead, forcing progress, demanding results, chasing certainty, that they no longer feel life flowing. They confuse motion with movement, speed with direction. But rhythm isn't about speed. It's about presence. Intention kills presence. A clenched jaw can't hear a melody. A racing heart misses the pause between notes. When you try to fix a moment that isn't broken, you step out of sync with reality, and reality never adjusts for your pace. This is the mistake. You believe life is a machine and your job is to operate it. But it's not a machine. It's a current. It has seasons, tempo, and timing, and just like a song, it unfolds at its own pace. You rushing it won't make it beautiful. It'll only make you miss the beauty that's already happening. That's the tragedy of control. You try to speed up what's meant to unfold slowly, and you ruin both the process and the peace. Zeno once said, happiness is a good flow of life. He didn't say a successful conquest or a perfect schedule. He pointed to the flow. And flow doesn't come from stress. It comes from alignment, from observing the natural rhythm and adjusting your presence to meet it, not your ego to override it. The Stoic doesn't force nature. He learns its pace and moves within it. Because harmony isn't loud, it's subtle. It's in the breath, the pause, the moment you didn't rush. You can feel the difference even now. Remember a morning when everything aligned, your mind was clear, your actions precise, your timing calm. You weren't slow, you were in rhythm. Compare that to a day where you rushed, spilled coffee, missed details, and lost your temper. Same hours, different rhythm. Same tasks, but one felt like chaos. The other? Flow. So, how do you return to rhythm? Start with breath. Slow it. Let your jaw unlock. Feel your feet against the ground. Listen before you speak. Pause before you act. That pause is not weakness. It's the beat between notes. It's the rhythm asking you to wait. Life does not reward the loudest mover. It responds to the most attuned. This isn't passivity. It's mastery. You're not surrendering your direction. You're surrendering your tension. That's a different power. You still show up, make choices, and move forward. But you stop fighting the moment. You stop needing every result right now. You start sinking. That's how the Stoic lives, not in battle with time, but in step with it. Let others chase. You breathe. Let them race. You walk steadily. Let them burn out. You build rhythm. The strongest men don't force their way through life. They move with it. And because of that, life moves with them. 6. Aligned presence attracts without force. We've been taught that to be noticed, we must perform. Speak louder. Move faster. Prove more. But real presence doesn't come from volume. It comes from stillness. The kind of stillness that doesn't ask for attention, because it no longer needs it. And ironically, that's when attention arrives. Most men chase validation like it's survival. They tighten their voice, perfect their tone, manage their impression, all in hopes of being respected, desired, seen. But the very act of trying is what repels. The world can smell the effort that comes from lack. It sees through the man who isn't settled within. And that dissonance, the gap between who he is and who he's trying to appear as, is what breaks his presence. Now picture this instead. A man who doesn't need to convince. He enters a room, doesn't rush to speak, doesn't seek a spotlight, doesn't adjust himself for approval, but you feel him. He carries a calm weight. He isn't performing, he's aligned. That alignment creates gravity, not the kind that demands, but the kind that draws. Stoicism was never about acting calm. It's about becoming calm through understanding, through order within, through emotional detachment, not as coldness, but as clarity. The Stoic knows that attraction is not something you manufacture. It's something that happens when tension leaves the body, when intention replaces insecurity. He doesn't live to impress, he lives to embody. And that embodiment creates trust. When your energy no longer leaks through over-explaining, overcompensating, or over-providing, it concentrates. That concentration becomes presence. Not the performative kind, but the kind that steadies a space, that holds silence without awkwardness, that looks but doesn't seek. that breathes but doesn't chase, that speaks but only when needed. You feel this difference most in conversations. When you're calm, your eyes don't dart, your shoulders stay low, you're not rehearsing your next line, you're here. And because you're here, the other person relaxes. That's the power of aligned presence. It regulates the room. Not through dominance, but through groundedness. It's the same power in relationships. When you stop seeking to be loved and start anchoring in who you are, you become more lovable. Not because you change, but because you stop distorting yourself. Women, children, friends, they feel when your strength isn't armor but clarity. They trust it more because it's quiet. And what's quiet when it's real becomes magnetic. Presence isn't gifted, it's trained. And it begins when you stop editing yourself for approval. When you slow your breath instead of raising your tone. When you meet pressure with posture, do not panic. When you let go of the need to impress and simply commit to showing up clean. No noise, no extras. So next time you walk into a room, don't rush, don't adjust. Let your stillness speak before your mouth does. That's the true signal. That's the silent declaration. I don't need anything from this moment, so I can be fully in it. Let others chase charisma. You cultivate alignment. Let others seek attention. You build quiet gravity. Let others perform. You be. That's not weakness, that's mastery. And the world doesn't forget a man like that. 7. Clarity comes when noise ends, not when thought increases. We often mistake overthinking for wisdom, as if thinking harder, faster, and longer will bring us peace. But what we call clarity is not born from noise. It arrives when the noise ends. Not because we solved everything, but because we stopped trying to solve what doesn't need fixing. Because most of what clouds the mind isn't life, it's the friction we create against life. Men are taught to push through, think more, strategize, fix. But too often this creates a storm inside the mind. You sit there, spiraling in thoughts, chasing the right decision, tightening your grip, when what you actually need is space. The mind doesn't operate well under pressure. It doesn't speak clearly when it's surrounded by noise. And clarity isn't found by adding more layers. It's found by subtracting. A Stoic doesn't chase answers. He creates the condition where answers reveal themselves. That condition is silence. That condition is stillness. Because only when the inner water is calm can it reflect something clearly. Marcus Aurelius would write in his journal not to overreact, not to force outcomes, not to get lost in what-ifs. He knew that reason has a rhythm, and we only hear it when we stop interrupting it with fear, doubt, and noise. You feel this when facing big decisions. Let's say you're choosing between two paths, career, relationship, and risk. Your first impulse is to dissect every angle, weigh every variable. But the more you calculate, the more unclear it gets. That's not intelligence, that's internal interference. What brings clarity is when you leave the battlefield of overthinking and retreat into the quiet, not to escape, but to return to the center, to remember what you truly value, to hear what the noise is. Sometimes the wisest action is no action. Not forever, but until the fog clears. A calm man doesn't rush to label what he doesn't yet understand. He holds the question in silence. And in that space, the truth arrives. Not loudly, but steadily. Like a sunrise that doesn't need your permission. Just your presence. You don't get clearer by grinding. You get clearer by grounding. When you let go of the belief that clarity is earned through force, you give yourself permission to be led by insight, not anxiety. You stop forcing answers and start trusting timing. And timing, real timing, can only be heard in the stillness. So next time your mind spirals, don't push harder. Pull back, turn off the noise, breathe into the discomfort. Let the tension soften. Then listen, not for a voice that screams, but for a truth that hums. You'll know it, not because it excites you, but because it calms you. A Stoic knows this. The quieter you become, the more you can hear what matters. Not opinions, not pressure, but direction. And in that silence, you stop being controlled. You start being guided, not by impulse, but by something deeper, something already inside you, waiting to be heard. 8. Power comes when you stop chasing and start receiving. Most men are taught to chase, to hunt, to prove, to keep pushing until the world gives in. But the more you chase, the more life runs from you. You exhaust yourself trying to force a door that only opens when you stop banging on it. This is not weakness, it's misplaced effort. Real strength doesn't sprint, it stands. Not out of passivity, but out of grounded certainty. A man who is ready doesn't move from urgency. He moves from calm. You've felt this before. That desperate need to make something happen fast. Whether it's a career breakthrough, a relationship, or reclaiming your identity after failure. You clench your jaw, you tighten your plans, you announce your goals out loud, thinking the noise will bring momentum. But behind the effort is fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of being forgotten. That's not power, that's panic in disguise. The Stoics held a different posture. They called it ataraxia, stillness, composure, freedom from disturbance. It's not the absence of ambition, it's the absence of frenzy. Seneca wrote that nothing is more powerful than a man at peace with delay, grounded in reason, unshaken by outcome. To the world, he looks inactive, but inside he's primed, every breath steady, every move clean. He doesn't fight the current, he waits, and when it turns, he flows with it. Because timing is not something he tries to control. It's something he aligns with. So when you're tempted to rush, to declare, to force what isn't ready, stop. Ask yourself, is this action rooted in strength or in fear? Are you building or are you reacting? Because reaction may look like action, but it carries no gravity, no weight. It fades as fast as it explodes. But action born of silence, of readiness, that holds. It changes rooms, not because it demands attention, but because it doesn't. Imagine standing in a storm, but not flinching. Not because the storm isn't real, but because you are. That's presence. That's what speaks before you do. That's the kind of man the world notices. Not the one performing, but the one who is centered. His silence is louder than others' noise, his calm a mirror. Not because he's lucky, but because he no longer begs life to move. He simply prepares himself to move with it when it does. This readiness is quiet. It shows in how you breathe before you speak, in how you hold your ground when plans fall apart. How do you stop announcing what you'll do and start becoming the kind of man who naturally does it? Without display, without drama, because confidence doesn't shout, it resides. And true readiness doesn't broadcast, it receives. So practice this. When urgency arises, do less. Breathe deeper. Walk slower. Don't try to convince life that you deserve more. Show that you're already enough. And when your moment comes, and it won't need to be forced. It'll fit. Not because you made it happen, but because you became the man who was ready, without noise, without need. Only presence. Only trust. If there's one truth you carry from this moment forward, let it be this. Life begins when you stop forcing it. The more you release the grip, the more things begin to align. Not by chance, but by clarity. You weren't meant to chase everything. You were meant to become still enough to receive what's already on its way. As we explored today, surrender isn't weakness. It's emotional discipline. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting the deeper rhythm of life. Each time you resist less, you gain more. Each time you stop performing, you become more powerful. True peace doesn't come from control. It comes from detachment, the quiet kind that builds self-mastery over time. This is a daily practice. Not once, not twice, but again and again, until your reflex is no longer tension, but trust, until your silence becomes your strength. Start small. Pause before reacting. Let go of one need for validation. Release one expectation you've been gripping too tightly. Protect your peace, even when the world pulls at it, and you'll notice what once felt chaotic begins to soften. The man who walks without resistance walks in quiet power. The woman who no longer begs for outcomes walks in dignity. You don't need to become someone else. You simply need to stop fighting who you already are. That's where freedom lives. So I invite you now, practice this in silence. Let today be the first of many. And if this message touched you in any way, share your story in the comments below. Your journey might be the voice someone else needs to hear. And every time we speak with honesty, we give each other the strength to let go too. Let go, be still, and let life come to you.